Here's 5 things that the cops don't want you to know. Number 1 is you don't actually have to answer their questions. You don't have to answer really any of them other than identifying yourself and giving them an ID. You know, if you're driving a car, especially driver's license. So that's it. You don't have to answer all the extra stuff. You don't have to tell them where you're coming from or where you're going or how much you've had to drink tonight or any of those sort of questions that they're asking. You absolutely have the right to refuse to answer those questions. That is a guaranteed fundamental constitutional right to remain silent. Cops don't want you to know it, but you have that right and you should exercise it. Number 2 is that they can't search your car legally unless they get a warrant or your consent. Now, they can get a warrant, but that takes time and that can be challenged in court later on too. So cops often, first and foremost, are seeking your consent to search the car. Now, they don't have to say, do you consent? They can play nice guy. They can say, hey, you mind if I look around? I want to make sure you're okay. You need to drive off, yada, yada, right? But they need that consent. They need you to allow them to get in the car. Now, you can give that consent if you really wish, but you're making it easy on the cops. The better route, if you're worried about it, is to refuse that consent and allow them to get in another way, a way that can be challenged in court. That can be a warrant, that can be a search incident to arrest, that can be because they claim that they see something in plain view. But those things can all be argued in court. If you're standing there on the side of the road saying, sure, officer, go ahead and search my car, then guess what? There's not very many avenues to argue in court that they shouldn't have searched the car. You gave them consent. Number 3 is that police officers can lie to you. There is no requirement that they tell you 100% of the truth, all the truth. That's just not something that officers are required to do. It is an investigation, and sometimes they can use these underhanded or backhanded techniques in order to get you talking. Oftentimes, they will do that by lying to you. The classic example is when there's 2 people under investigation, right? And they separate them either on the street or in different interview rooms back at the station. And they go into one and they say, guess what? Your buddy over there, your co-conspirator here, they told me everything. They laid it all out. So guess what? You better do the same if you want any favorable treatment from us. That can be a total outright lie. They didn't even need to have spoken to that other person yet. And that is a tactic, and we can talk about the maybe ethics of it if you wish, but the truth is they are allowed to do it and people fall for it all the time. The number 4 thing that the cops don't want you to know is that they do need a legal basis to stop your vehicle, and they actually need a legal basis for all those little stages and steps that occur between stopping your vehicle and making the arrest. Let me explain. So an officer pulls you over for, a traffic violation. An officer needs to be able to reasonably articulate what that violation that they believe they saw is. They need to say what it is. Now, not to you, but they need to be able to say it after the fact and justify it. And that's one way the cops get an awfully lot of leeway, is they don't have to tell the defendant or the driver of the vehicle. They just need to be able to articulate what the legal basis is after the fact. That's also true for those big moments like getting somebody out of the car and having them do standard field sobriety tests. That is no longer just a regular traffic stop. That's now a DUI investigation. And so an officer needs to be able to articulate, again, after the fact, why this progressed from a regular traffic stop to now a DUI investigation. And that's why you're going to see all the time in every report pretty much around the country for an alcohol-based DUI that the driver had slurred speech, bloodshot glassy eyes, strong odor of alcohol in the breath. That is after the fact, the officer justifying their legal basis for taking it from a traffic stop, which is a pretty low level, infringement upon your rights and freedoms, to now a DUI investigation where they're having you do circus acts on the side of the road, which is certainly a higher sort of level of taking away your freedoms, at least temporarily. So, and then it goes up even further. When they put you in handcuffs, that is obviously them taking away your freedoms, again, at least temporarily, and they need to articulate the reason for that. That's called probable cause. The officer doesn't have to tell you. He doesn't have to clearly walk you through that process. He just needs to be able to do it on his own and in his reports after the fact if he needs to justify this in court. All right, number 5 is I want you to know that officer friendly is not actually trying to be your friend. Don't get me wrong. There are many great officers out there and they're genuinely personable and care for people, especially in lower level, non-serious situations. But in a more serious investigation, a DUI or, far worse, officer who's being friendly is probably not actually trying to be all that friendly. That is a classic technique where they get you to relax and open up. And when you're relaxed and open up, you're going to say things that you're more likely to say things that are against your interest. You're more likely to speak with somebody. And every time that you open your mouth and you speak with an officer, when you are the subject of their investigation, it is a bad move by you. And the officers know that. So just simply being friendly and allowing you to talk, feeling like you can speak openly, officer knows that they are gathering evidence against you. And that is a time-tested trick that officers have been using since day one. All right, guys, those are 5 things that the cops do not want you to know. Now, I'm not teaching you how to go out there and cause crimes here, right? Commit crimes. Crime doesn't pay, kids. But if you do interact with the police and you are the subject of their investigation, well, now you know these 5 tactics that may be used. And again, the underlying theme here is they don't have to tell you what's really going on. So the best bet is to not make any statements and keep quiet.